Hello, Internet. Welcome to All Around the Screen, a role-playing podcast here, primarily on the evac station. I'm your humble host and Dungeon Master Shane, and my co-hosts and player characters will introduce themselves one by one.
I'm Nicole. I am the sometimes co-GM and always player.
I am Gary Gygax. I'm the creator of the universe, and you could all bow down to me.
I would just
Sorry, no, I'm thinking of something else. My name's Erin, and I'm the prankster who sits in the corner and makes everyone look like fools.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I am the eternal player who constantly throws himself into his characters a little too far.
And I'm Erin, and I am the local bird lady, and you will hear them cuckoo-ka-chewing throughout the entire session, basically. Yay.
All right. Well, yeah, that was definitely an introduction. I assumed as much was going to happen. So this first episode, I've lovingly called it we finally meet in a tavern, because Nicole and I, a little background on the podcast, Nicole and I have sort of had this idea in the back of the oven for quite a long time, a number of years. Actually, as a matter of fact, before we finally got this off the screen, so we finally have met in the tavern. So for this first episode, what I'd like to talk about, what I'd like to discuss with you guys is primarily RPG stories, and secondly, why the hell you do this? What the hell keeps you coming back to this hobby? Why do you specifically waste a good portion of your of a weeknight or a weekend
Or a whole day.
Because I'm an idiot, okay?
Because you're an idiot is a fairly good answer.
I think
honestly.
that's number one on the list. We are all idiots.
We're all pretty dumb.
We are a collective idiot.
Yep.
So, why don't we start with we'll start with Gary Gygax. Gary, tell me. I realize you designed Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm honored to be speaking with you.
Yes, well, you see, it was quite difficult, really. It took a lot of drugs to get started.
Now,
Once you get that ball rolling, there's just no stopping it.
Now I've read Designers and Dragons all the way through, so I know a little bit about your life story, Gary. But tell me, tell the internet really, how did you get started with role playing? Tell me about your first experience role playing.
Well, you see, Dungeons and Dragons is actually based on real life events. I don't know if you know this actually, but they really are. So it happened a long time ago. My friend, my friend and I can't remember his name now. It's been so long. But we were just wandering around in a forest. We came across this weird-looking stone monument thing. And we're like, oh, hey, you know what? Let's check this shit out. So we walk into it, and wouldn't you believe it? There's like these big, weird-looking guys with jacked up teeth, orcs everywhere. It was nuts. So we ran through the whole thing, trying to avoid eye contact because they were trying to kill us, obviously. We get to the very end, there's this little tiny, dodecahedron in there somewhere. And we're like, what's this all about? And we're like seeing it, it's got numbers glowing out. We're like, what's this all about? And all of a sudden it cracks open and the dragon comes out and tries to kill us. So we just bolt out of there and we're like, you know what we need to do? We need to make a game based on our experiences. Boom, right there.
So,
All
internet,
legit.
just so you know, this is a good example of Dungeon Master 101. Your player makes up bullshit and you sit there and you roll with it.
Yes.
Erin, actually though, like, what was your first experience like role playing? What was your first game?
Well, let's see. This goes back to probably. I think everyone's probably gonna go back to like high school. I'm gonna guess to start with. That was probably the case for me. I don't know if we started right at high school, if it was like going into community college, but it was around then. My buddy Josh, who I record the Dark Souls Let's Play with, check that out if you get a chance to. That
Shameless
one.
plug.
The two of us, we started that up with a group of ours, and he just did a one-shot RP where we were apparently in a dream. And we were fighting some kind of sun god, I think is what it was. It's been so long, I can't remember. But we were fighting that, and we beat the sun god, and all of a sudden we all wake up, and it's like, oh, it's all a dream. And I'm like, fuck you, Josh, I want to play an actual game, not a dream. That's bullshit.
What a jerk.
That is kind of a dick thing to do to somebody in your first game.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I was so mad when it happened. I'm like, I want to fight real monsters.
I mean, to be fair, it sounds like something Josh would do.
Yeah. But then after that, though, our group kind of grew with more people, had different people play the DM card, including my buddy Rob, myself multiple times. We've kind of rotated. My buddy Ben's done it as well. I think he was in one of our Let's Plays, Nicole, what was it, the dating sim one, Kindness Coins or something like that. Yeah. But no, we've mixed up a little bit, and right now, because our group is kind of in a weird spot, we're not doing full RPs, we're doing Descent, which is kind of like RP light. Like, no story, and no character role playing, but you are playing a character and navigating a dungeon. So
it's just the combat aspect of it.
Yeah, it's basically D&D 4.0. That's basically what it is.
Oh, great, yeah, alright.
Oh, yeah.
So, clock time is 5 minutes, 45 seconds in. We're already bashing 4th edition. I like it. This is going to be a great...
Alright, it's a new record.
Alright, this is going to shoot us right to the top of Stitcher. It's going to be great. Erin, let me go to you, because clearly... You are clearly a Master Ranger and Master Druid, having wrangled all those birds to your beck and call.
Yes.
What about you? Tell me about what's your RP experience? What do you...
Why do I do it?
Yeah, what? Why? Tell me why you do it.
Alright, well, I guess I should explain, the type of RPGs I've done. I didn't start out as, a tabletop RPG. I started out online, through a Redwall website, actually. That's how I got into RPG, was through online role-playing.
Okay.
And, but that was just basically us writing back and forth to each other as different characters. And I was such a noob. I was such a noob when I started. Yes, I hear you, shush. And,
This is clearly... See, the druid is masterful. She shut that bird right up.
Yep, see.
yeah. Well, and the funny thing is I usually played a healer when I did the RPG stuff online. And I did that for a long time, and one-sentence responses turned into, 5-page responses, depending on if we had one character in play or 20. I'm not joking. At one point, I had to keep a list of how many characters were doing things in one post. It was hilarious.
Did you ever GM online or in those forum games? Did you ever get a chance to GM, or were you primarily just playing?
I was pretty much just a player. I was a follower. I would lead some of the plot stuff, but not like that.
Okay.
The first tabletop type, it was D&D. I don't remember what edition. I really don't. But it was my freshman year of college. And I played the moodiest ass elf. And you could imagine, I barely talked during the game because I was so intimidated of actually seeing people face to face.
Were you a thief?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't.
What were you?
No,
Do you remember?
Oh shit, what was I? I don't remember. I know I ended up part Amethyst Dragon though.
Yeah, that sounds like 4th edition.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a lot of funny stories from that. But no, I played that my freshman year of college and I loved it. We would play for 4 hours straight every Monday night. And then some if we decided to do side quests and such.
Okay.
And it was really funny. I loved the people that I played with, and they were really good at it. I'll admit I suck. I suck because I was so nervous, actually speaking my character's part instead of writing it up in front of a computer. But I really had a lot of fun with it, and I started doing it sophomore year. We did a different version, but then the guy that our GM decided he was having too much trouble with German class, so he dropped it, and I never got back into it. But I still do the online role playing a lot.
Okay. Do you have a link to the Redwall website? We put it in the description.
No, it died.
Oh.
A long time ago.
Shout out to Redwall.
Yeah, shout out to Red.
Most RP sites like that.
Yeah. I was part of a few versions of Redwall, so there was Southsworth, I think, was one. Wow, it's been a while. Emerald Green Bay was another. there was Redwall Rediscovered, and I can't remember the others. There were several more that I was part of, and then one Random Wolf RPG.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so I was involved with a lot of different ones. It's how I kind of got more into writing and kind of honed my writing skills was through those websites and writing with other people. My
Right.
co-author is actually one of the people that I was role-playing with when I was in high school. So she and I got really close, and we ended up deciding to turn some of our ideas into actual books.
Nice.
So, yeah, we might make our RPG very lucrative one day.
One day, if we could all be so lucky. If we could all turn our weekly Saturday bullshit into money, then if only.
Hey, I mean, Konami's getting away with that, so...
No, we do not bash Konami on this podcast because
Okay.
they're not role-playing. They do not have role-playing in their games.
So is 4th edition or Konami on
Fourth
this?
edition is Konami. It's fine.
Okay.
You can bash fourth edition and Fatal. We can bash all day long.
Okay, so we have to change the hashtag instead of fuck Konami, fuck 4th edition.
I'm down. I'm okay with this.
Do it.
I will get it tattooed right here on my bicep. Fuck 4th edition. So Ryan, I think I've played with you the longest.
I think so. Yeah, since high school.
But I don't know. Like, was the game I played with you the mage game that we played in high school? Was that your first game?
Yeah, actually, first game ever was in high school. Shane and I, along with my current roommate Sean and a couple other friends in high school, we got together because Sean really wanted to play a World of Darkness old school mage campaign. Which, of course, since we were in high school, we didn't know shit about what real World of Darkness was. All I knew was I just saw Full Metal Alchemist, and I wanted to snap my fingers and make people explode.
But nobody would ever let you do it.
But no one would let me do it. They said it was too overpowered. So.
Cause it is!
I tell you what, Ryan. The next time we play Big Eyes Small Mouth, you can do that all you want.
Excellent. I'm holding you to that. We have that on. We have that. Like
I will. It's right there. It's on the recording.
You know
Unless
what, Ryan?
Nicole edits it out, then.
You know what, Ryan? Maybe when we play Maid, maybe I'll let you do it. Maybe.
Ooh, I want to see this.
Maybe.
Maybe. But from that first game, I just kind of got hooked. I mean, I'm a huge reader. I love reading fantasy novels, and I love kind of throwing myself into those stories. And role-playing really is a conduit where I can get together with some of my best friends. We can tell amazing stories like the ones in the books. And instead of reading about a protagonist or some other character, I can actually, experience it for the first time, for myself. So that's primarily why I kept doing it ever since high school and why I'm an active role player today.
Okay. And Beb,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes, hello.
Yes, hello. You're right there. I didn't start role playing with you, I think, until college. So I don't know. I think because you had told me at one point you played D&D a little bit. But...
Yeah, my first game was actually 4th edition. That lasted for a whole 2 sessions for me.
And we wonder, and somehow you came back. It must be a miracle.
That I attribute to you, because we had started dating. I think we had only been together about 6 months when Angel had suggested that he DM a mage game. And you had already known that I had done it, so you got me into joining that game. And then it just spiraled out of control, and here I am. And this is my life.
Yeah. It's not a bad life.
I mean, yeah, I'm just sitting here talking about RP, knitting a scarf that my character wears in-game because, yeah.
There you go. I mean, look, you want to talk about meta shit. Like, that's meta shit right there.
I love Nicole. Nicole gets deep into her characters.
Only
if her
a
character's
little
wearing
bit.
a scarf, she's going to knit that fucking scarf
Well, look,
during
okay,
game. I love it.
I had the urge to knit, but I had no idea what to do. So my character in our Saturday game wears a scarf. Because I play a rogue, and I didn't want to do the whole cloak thing, because I hate the idea of the rogue wearing the typical cloak. So I'm like, she wears a scarf.
Shout out to Liam O'Brien, the rogue of many cloaks.
Yep, that man has far too many cloaks. So I decided that my rogue, she wears a scarf. So she wears a green scarf. So I look in my bin and I'm like, oh, here's the exact shade of green that she wears. I'm gonna knit this scarf, and I am currently doing so.
She's almost done with it too, I think.
I have about 20 more inches to go.
So she might be done by the time we finish this podcast. Who knows? For me, I think my first ever actual game. I say actual game because I think any game that you play in. Most games I think you play in before you start to hit your adolescence don't really count. Because like the first time I ever role played, I was in the 7th grade and I got roped into a D&D 2nd edition game at Galaxy Comics. If anybody's ever been to Chicago, there was this old comic shop that was right by my grade school, and I got roped into a
Galaxy.
See, you know what I'm talking about.
Was that your Drow Sorcerer?
That was my Drow Sorcerer. Yep, the first character I ever played. My Drow Sorcerer with like a level adjustment of like +4. But that game was an interesting game, but it was mostly combat, and I think a lot of games back then that were mostly combat games, right? And then I got to high school. By the time I got to high school, I was sick of Dungeons and Dragons. So when Sean, our mutual friend Sean, was like, "Hey, let's play a role playing game," my caveat was, "Okay, anything except D&D." But at that time, I really didn't know about other role playing games that were out there because my only experience was to D&D. And then he suggested Mage: The Awakening. I said yes. That's how Ryan and I got roped into it and been role playing ever since.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
So unfortunately, luckily for me though, I've avoided the dreaded 4th edition. I've only ever played a one shot of it. I played a one shot of it.
If only we could all be so lucky.
If only we could all be so lucky. So that being said, those being like sort of your level 0, your origin story, as it were, as a role player. What about role playing do you think brings you back to the table? Brings you back on a weekly basis? You know.
Well, for me, I can really say it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about how I enjoy the stories that we tell, and I'm really spoiled because all the friends that I role play with, they're damn good DMs and they write really, really good stories. And of course, we've been friends long enough that they know exactly what I like in a story, and they also know how to tailor it so that they tell the story they want, but they also make it enjoyable for everyone. So, like, we all have a great time at the table. And I personally love just getting sunk into these stories. It's like living a fantasy novel. And, yeah, that's what keeps me coming back. I love making characters that are they're close to me in terms of personality. I usually pick, like, one thing and, like, amp it up and add a couple of different circumstances in order to make the character. But I try to keep it closer to me so that I can get into character easily, and it allows me to feel the story more. So when there's a twist, I have a very big reaction, as the rest of you will know.
So, Ryan, while the rest of these guys are thinking, I gotta ask you, because a lot of people are gonna ask, how often do you do a goofy voice for your character?
A goofy voice?
Well, not necessarily a goofy voice, but I think a lot of times when people think of role-playing, they think of a bunch of people sitting around a table talking in faux British accents.
Yeah, okay.
That's our Sunday game, okay?
That's our Victoriana game on Saturdays,
right?
Just so you know.
We need Max here for that.
Because I'm not super good at the goofy voices, I usually won't put on a super thick accent. Generally, it'll affect my tone of voice. So, if I'm playing a kind of jovial character, I'll maybe pitch it a little higher up, and it'll be a little lighter, as opposed to when I'm playing a badass who's got like a 5-foot sword on his back, then there's no time for frickin' nonsense. I'm gonna cut you in half if you don't tell me what I need to know. So that's my vocal range isn't super big, but I do like to tailor it a little bit for each character.
Ryan, I gotta ask, when you're channeling that character, when you're making that character with a big sword, are you channeling Cloud or are you channeling Guts from Berserker?
Guts, hands down, hands down, Guts.
Cloud is a little too emo for Ryan.
Berserker armor and everything.
But what about you guys? Either of the Erins or Nicole? Like what about role playing as a hobby drags you back in every week?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I am an idiot. But if I had to...
Besides the fact that you're an idiot, because I know that you're an idiot.
It is known that we are all idiots.
A collective idiot, you might say.
Yes.
Let's see. I guess what makes me come back is the fact that I like seeing the people I roleplay with moving about in the stories I create, the worlds I create, because I am one of those people who's like, oh, this book tells me how to make a story or a campaign for my game. Fuck that, no, I'm making my own. I just do that all the time, because it's like, I don't want to play in a world that's already been made and established that people can kind of, predict and read about ahead of time. I want something that no one's going to have any idea what's happening.
So you're primarily a GM then, Erin?
What?
You're primarily a GM then?
Mostly because everyone else in my group is a little less experienced with it, yes.
Okay. That tends to be how a lot of GMs get their start. They're the only usually back in my day, it was whoever actually owned the book was the GM.
Well, and here's the funny thing. When it comes to the rules of D&D, I will not lie, I am pretty crap at remembering every single rule and every single stat and how everything works.
Of course.
But when it comes to like creating the world and creating characters and creating like just fun battles and moments, that's something I can do because I just can piece it together like a good puzzle. Because I've been just playing so many games, movies, watching so many shows, and just kind of piece it all together to build up something interesting. When it comes to playing a hero, it's fun, but I like being able to play multiple characters so I can kind of have a conversation with people in different ways.
Right.
Like, I remember one game I did where they needed to get a boat to go to some place. Or whatever. I don't remember exactly where they were going. But the boatman, I literally had no better idea than to make him sound like Jeff Goldblum. And my buddy who heard me doing this was losing his shit the entire time I was doing the Jeff Goldblum impression. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't know what happened to me, but I just lost my mind.
Oh no, as a fellow GM, I can tell you, some of the most rewarding experiences as a dungeon master is watching my table crack up when I actually just put on an NPC hat and just start going.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god.
These are so much fun to play.
Yeah, like, we have in our Saturday game, it's a little off topic, if anybody out there is a fan of Critical Role, I'm a huge fan, and as an homage to Matthew Mercer, who I believe is the greatest man of all time, I stole Sean de Gilmore, the owner and proprietor of Gilmore's Glorious Goods, and imported him into our game just to give it a little bit more flavor. As soon as they walked into that store and started interacting with him, Ryan fell on the floor.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was dead.
Literally.
I was entirely dead.
I've seen Ryan just die from an NPC a couple of times, and that was one of them, and it just made me happy.
It was a good time.
God, Gilmore. He I think it took about 5 seconds for him to become like one of our favorite NPCs ever.
Yeah.
Like all of 5 seconds for us to fall in love with Gilmore.
Yeah, that's sort of what I intended. But what about the ladies? We men folk have been dominating the conversation as we do because we're men.
Yeah, you damn men.
You know.
I think,
Erin, smash some patriarchy for me, will you?
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why I go back to it is because I love living a different life. I can put it like that. I love being able to be a different character, be somebody who may be more confident than I am, or somebody who's stronger, or somebody who's meeker than I am. It's fun to play the role of a different character. Like I said, I've never GM'd it also. I'm always involved in the playing part. I like following stories. I'm a sucker for needing to know what happens next. And that's part of what goes with me being a writer is I'm trying to figure out the plot line, what's going to happen, what kind of things are going to get thrown at us. And writing.
Oh, so you're like Ryan. You like your rails, huh?
Yeah.
You like those plot rails, do you?
Nah,
Yeah.
Rails are good.
nah.
Except when our GM decides to kill all of us for a plot device, and it's like, what the fuck?
Oh, that's just rude.
Wait, how do you mean kill you for a plot device? If he kills you, that's the end of the game.
No, he resurrected us, but we had to go find our souls, and they were trapped inside of gems.
That's
It
just
was
rude.
it was weird. It was very
Didn't they
weird.
do that in Scooby-Doo the movie? I could have sworn they did.
Oh my god.
Sad part is, I think I know what movie he's talking about.
Yeah, I think it was the one with Scrappy Doo, where Scrappy Doo was the villain. I'm fairly positive.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's a
But-
shit movie.
What's hilarious about that, Erin, is I think the Scooby Gang is actually a great analog for your typical role-playing party.
Yeah.
Just bringing it back on topic, because you have Fred, who's obviously a bard. Obviously, right? Like, I don't think there's...
look at that ascot.
That ascot, because he's either a bard or a paladin.
Yes, God.
God bless him.
Get out, Aaron.
Yeah.
Just leave.
He's,
Aaron,
he's multi-class.
He's a multi-class bard paladin.
Yeah, he's a bard
Yeah,
lord.
I can see Fred being Bard Paladin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously, and then you've got, like, Velma, who's clearly a wizard.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Clearly.
Obviously.
Shaggy, who's obviously a ranger.
Mhm.
You know?
I could see him pulling off the thief, like, rogue style, too.
No, because the way he
Yeah.
commands Scooby makes him obviously a ranger. Now, he might be multi-class as well.
Beastmaster
I would
Ranger.
say Scooby's a separate character entirely. I think he's like the werewolf, like, barbarian, almost.
Nah, he's too cowardly to be a barbarian. That's the thing. Barbarians...
This is true.
No, Scooby I see as the ranger pet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
That's
he's always
because he
close
never
enough to
leaves
Shaggy,
Shaggy's
but
side.
he does his own
Yeah.
thing sometimes.
Yeah.
So he's not like a... Because he's more than a familiar, but he's not his own character, so I think he's definitely a ranger pet.
And then what the hell is Daphne? Because I would think Daphne then by default is a cleric? Maybe?
I
She
think
does the Scooby snacks.
Actually, I
That's
would
true.
probably think that Daphne was the bard.
Nah,
I
I
always...
wouldn't go that far.
Can Daphne just be like the level 0 that they escort?
I mean, yeah, Daphne could just
She
be an...
kind of is. I mean, she always
Yeah,
has
alright,
a
fine.
action.
Make the woman the level 0 NPC who nobody cares about. I see what kind of
To be fair,
podcast I'm
though, in
hosting.
the movie, the shitty movie, she does learn, like, martial arts, so she could be a monk.
No, there you
Oh,
go.
shit,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you go by movie logic, then
That'd be
yeah.
cool.
That crap movie redeeming the character, yes.
There you go. All right, the movie actually gave her some development. Congratulations, movie. Shout out to Warner Brothers for that one.
That's all you get.
That's all you get. Everybody gets one.
All right, so next week, one shot. We're playing the Scooby Gang. It's gonna be great. Tune in for that. It's gonna be the best.
I can do a pretty good Scooby impression.
No, I want you to be Scrappy, Ryan. I want you to play Scrappy Doo. That way you have odds to overcome.
If you bring Max in to be Scrappy, I think he'd fit it better.
Yeah.
Fine, we'll get Max on. Max can play Scrappy Doo. It'll be great.
Mhm.
Like, man, I don't know how we're gonna do this, bro.
Wow.
Don't worry, Shaggy.
Fuck.
I told you I worked on that.
Can I be Shaggy and then Ryan's my Scooby? Can Ryan be my ranger pet?
Actually, to be fair, if we're gonna do it right, we need to somehow get Sean, because I think he's the only one who's done enough drugs to properly portray Shaggy.
Yes.
And then I think you or Danielle have to be Velma. I think that just is.
That just is.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think Ryan by default, I think, has to be Fred.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine. You want to be the dog, Ryan? I was trying to give you a little bit more to let you be the main character. You wanna be
Max is the dog.
the... No, Max is Scrappy. I'm talking about Scooby.
The good dog.
The good
The
dog.
good dog.
Do you swear?
Wow.
He's the alpha dog. He's the alpha dog, right?
He's the alpha dog.
He's the pack leader, you might say.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So getting back to some semblance of a topic. Bev, I think you're the only one.
We have topics?
Yeah, you're the only one who really hasn't, like, besides this goofy shenaniganery that goes on, because for me, this goofy nonsense as a dungeon master, I just sit back and I just sit back, tint my fingers, and watch you guys hang yourself with rope. Like,
I know. I know.
A wise DM once told me you can never have too much rope.
Sometimes he supplies us with rope.
Yeah.
We just see rope laying on the ground. It's like, oh, there's some rope. Let's hang ourselves with
Pick it up.
We have to pick it up.
I mean, like, what self-respecting player is not gonna pick up rope?
It's useful.
Especially if I leave the rope conveniently over some plot rails. I know for a fact Ryan will pick it right up.
Oh yeah, I'm going.
Oh, yeah.
But besides that, because that's why I do this. Why do you do this?
I do this. I first started out doing it because of the silly shenanigans that my character would do. But then once we did our first, like, real big campaign in Fantasy Craft, which lasted about a year, I kept doing it because of all the lore and, like, backstory that I would give my characters. Like, for Fantasy Craft, my character Zelda, I wrote probably about 5 pages of backstory just on what had happened before she was even born. Uh-oh.
Hang on, pausing the recording. Mark. Back to what you were saying?
Yeah, so I had written about maybe 5 pages before she was even born. And I've kind of had a habit of doing that with almost every character now. That and building a stable of NPCs around said character.
Yeah, if anybody likes NPCs, it's Nicole. Nicole, as a GM, Erin, if you ever get a chance to GM for Nicole, your life will be so easy. Just because she'll give you an entire stable of NPCs that you can just hurt them. And hurt them, and it's just awesome.
Yes, I've done this so much we have dubbed it family meta, where I just have a huge family that my character cares for, and then that will give Shane the fodder to hurt me. He won't hurt me, he'll hurt those I love.
As it should be done.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
As it should be done.
As opposed to say, like, Danny, who usually will write, like... Usually she'll write herself as a loner, or with, like, 1 or 2 NPCs that she has in backstory. Mm-hmm. She won't really go into, like, a huge, detailed family-wise. Yeah. But...
Oh, no. Yeah. I make a family tree, when they were born, when their siblings were born. I go full out on lore.
See, I respect that. I very rarely have people in my campaign who ever do that.
Yeah. And then once
there was one guy challenged, because he's like, oh, I can write a great backstory. I'm like, okay, man, make it 5-page minimum. He's like, what the fuck? So he does it, and he comes up with 5 pages and tries to read the whole thing in one of our sessions. I'm like, dude, you're 2.5 pages in and everyone's falling asleep. I love it, but you might want to speed it up.
See, that's the thing. You never have... even your players give you a 5-page backstory, but you never want to just have them info dump it at the table. That's never something you want to do.
Yeah, no, the depth that Nicole goes into with her characters, it's always really a sight to see. Like, I try to learn from Nicole how to be a better role player, to be quite honest. No, I mean, it's real.
How are you amazed at the depth? Like, what surprises you at the depth that I go through?
No, it's not a surprise. It's amazement. Amazement is different from surprise. I expect it. It's really, really good. And so I try to kind of pick up from where she's going, because she always has a really deep level of thought with every character that she's made. So it's always a treat to play with Nicole, because Nicole always comes prepared to game.
Yeah, definitely. I want to get both the Erins into a game, because I'm very interested to see I'm very interested to see both just how they operate as players.
Yeah,
I tend to be that player who, when I am playing, to just kind of goof off and maybe find an NPC to mess around with. But otherwise, I just kind of explore the world and more than I actually focus on any particular story or fight mostly. I like to see how far I can break the story if I can. I'm that guy who, when playing a video game, jumps into walls to find where you can fall through the world. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Oh no, I mean, I have a player like that in my my regular campaign. Sean is very much that way. Sean as a player is very much the kind of guy who is he's gonna see the story and see sort of where all the other PCs are headed, and then go in the exact opposite direction of it.
That's not fair.
I'll give you an example. Oleg Bronzebeard, that fight you guys had, you guys were fighting Oleg, and he decides, you know what? They're fighting Oleg.
They got
What's
this.
over here? What's around that the other guys haven't seen? Or another example would just be like you guys exploring that temple in the desert, and then him deciding, you know what? There's like a village, like about a little ways away, so I'm gonna leave the rest of the party and go see what that village is about. Granted, his character was mad, but
Well, and the reason I do that though is because one of the first sessions I was able to host, it was back when I had very little understanding of the rules. But in one session, the players were trying to fight some guys, and one of them very intelligently suggests, "Hey, let's kidnap one of these bad guys, bring them with us to get information." And they do that, and then that's when the session ended. In between sessions, I'm like, "Oh shit, they caught a guy. What can I really do with this?" I was hoping they'd go into the mountain and explore more of it. So they leave with a guy they captured. What do I do? And so I'm sitting on this thinking for a while. I'm like, you know what I can do? I can make this work with the story. So I ended up making that guy they caught a shapeshifter undercover to try to find out what was going on, just like they were. Except he had his own agenda, who was basically trying to do evil things against them. And it became a really interesting plot twist based on something I didn't expect them to do. Which I'm like, that's why I try to break the game, to make you come up with better ideas.
yeah, that's why I think Sean does it too. Sean will do it specifically for that reason, because he likes to make the GM sort of react. You know, he likes to have a more reactionary, free-flowing kind of story. So I think that's why.
Respect that.
Yeah, I definitely respect. As a GM, I respect the hell out of that. What was I?
All your best laid plans just go to the wayside.
Oh, you want to talk about best laid plans going to the wayside? Fantasy Craft, our probably longest running campaign. Our longest running game that we've ever had started with all the players basically saying, "Hey Shane, fuck your story."
No. Let's say this right. Zelda said fuck this story, and everyone else was too scared to say no. Let's be real.
Basically, I had given them a quest. Like, I had given them, like, just a pretty much the most generic introductory quest just to get them together. I was like, alright, this old dwarven character is gonna hire you guys to go and collect this old, forgotten king's crown. And as they were getting ready to do that, they ended up finding out about this fucking, like, gang war that was happening. And Nicole's character said, well, fuck it, this gang is far more important to my family, so we're doing this now. And then all the other characters, who were just a little bit more passive, were just like, yeah, you know what, let's just follow what the big scary lady with the metal fist says. So
Because Zelda she came from a family who controlled the city's military. So she was set up to become the next captain of the guard. And she walked around with a huge metal gauntlet that she used to punch people in the face. Would you say no to this woman?
Not even a little bit. I was just a kid from the desert that was trying to work for some money, so I was just like, fuck, okay, she said let's go this way. In my mind, Zelda was pretty much the face of the military operation that hired us. So if she said the plan is changing, then I was like, all right, we're changing the plan. Let's do that.
Ryan, why don't you tell the story about the pebble? Tell the Erin's the pebble story.
Oh, it's a good story.
It's a great story, and it's a testament to how well Shane knows me. Like, I didn't, like, Shane is one of my best friends, but it didn't really click how well he knew me until this happened. So we were playing Fantasy Craft. It was it was about halfway through the game, right?
About.
Yeah, maybe a little bit over halfway, I think. Yeah.
A little over halfway through the game, I was playing a mage swordsman, which many of my characters end up falling into that category. But this was one of my first attempts at the character. It was a mage swordsman, self-taught in the ways of magic, and we had ended up in the city of Ys, which was the elven homeland. And elves were, of course, some of the world's foremost wizards and mages. So I wanted to learn from them, and they said, "Well, the way that the style of magic that you've learned is so rudimentary and so crude that you're pretty much behind even the smallest, like even some of our youngest students. So there's really no way you're ever going to be able to learn how to imbue magic as we do." And I said, "Of course I can. If I taught myself how to get through magic this far and started off at an abandoned library in the middle of the desert by myself, I'm sure I can begin to grasp your concepts." And they looked at me and they said, "Okay. We'll give you a test that we give to our younglings. We're going to give you a pebble, and your job is to imbue that pebble with magic so that life springs forth from it. There's supposed to be like a flower, a plant, a sapling that sprouts forth from the rock. If you can do that, we'll have some basis of where to start with you." So I said, "Fine." And I sat there in their garden for a few days by myself, constantly thinking of ways to describe how I put the magic into it. And Shane gave me a lot. Shane was pretty impressed because I had gone from, okay, I try to brute force, like push the magic into the rock, or I imagine the magic swirling from the palm of my hand, seeping into the rock from every direction. And I was coming up with all of this crazy stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, Ryan, that's good." And he would just write something down. He wouldn't tell me what it was, but just made a little notation, a little mark. Turns out, the person who gave me the rock was an agent for one of our enemies. And the rock he gave me wasn't actually a rock. It was an egg for a demon. And I had been cleverly feeding that demon for a good minute. So the egg was about to crack before we actually... Where do we go to fight it, Shane? Where do we end up fighting it?
If I recall correctly, once you guys had discovered that it was actually a demon and that the guy who gave it to you wasn't to be trusted, you guys went to the Shadowfell.
Yeah. And
while you were in the Shadowfell, the egg hatched into like its baby, form, and you guys had to fight it in the Shadowfell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we pretty much attacked it in utero. In shadow in utero.
Yes.
So yeah, we got to fight a baby demon, which had only grown to be as powerful as it was because Shane had played me like a goddamn fiddle.
Good job, Ryan.
Yep, good job.
But to my credit, when I got an actual rock, I managed to sprout forth a seed. So
nice.
Ha ha ha.
Well, yeah, I wasn't gonna just deny him that entirely. That would have been mean.
It would have been mean.
What about you guys? What about hilarious stories? Anything you guys have from just hilarious experiences you guys have had from your role playing?
Oh, I got a couple.
I'm all ears. Oh, Erin, before you start, actually.
Yeah.
Since you got your start with Redwall, I want you to, as soon as you get a chance, Google Mouse Guard.
Oh, I've heard of them.
Good. There's a role-playing game about it, and I think you'd love it. But go.
Cool. Yeah, I'll look at it.
Go on.
Okay, I have a couple funny college D&D game.
I want to know the story of how you became an amethyst dragon.
Okay, so during the game, at one point, Death decided to visit us. I don't remember what happened. Death just appeared, and he asked us, "Why do you think you should live?" And nobody had a good answer. Like, everybody would give an answer, Death would kill them. He came to me, and I was just like, and he's like, "You took too long to respond. You're dead." Like, fuck, okay. So our bodies got trapped in one location, and then our souls got trapped in gems in, like, the 7th level of hell. So we had to work together to, like, one person came back to life first, and we had to work together to find our bodies and to find our souls. And then once I found my soul in the amethyst gem, I became part amethyst dragon, and we all just kind of, like, upgraded. It was really weird. But I was just like, what the fuck? Like, he just killed us all. We just sat there, and he goes, "That's the end of the game." We're like, what the fuck? He's like, "Just kidding. We're going to continue next session." And we're like, "But we're all dead." So that was the part amethyst dragon thing.
That is the goofiest... That sounds like 4th edition.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. My character also had dire wolves with her, and the first wolf companion she had with her exploded. It was so sad.
Like, actually exploded?
And it exploded in the game. It got hit by some kind of attack and exploded.
Oh.
And I was just like,
Voice.
my wolf! It was so sad. But the two things that I think were the funniest was, so Tom, who was our DM, wanted to do a side story with my character Deciona. And like I said, she was a moody elf, and I had a whole family backstory for her too. And basically, she was betrayed by her lover and wanted to go after him for destroying all the people that she loved. Well, he set up this side mission for us. It was completely separate from the Monday night games, and he brought my friend Brett in with, and she was a halfling thief. And the goal of it was the halfling thief was going to help my character, like, avenge deaths and stuff. Well, I was trying to play my character as the stubborn, I don't need your help character, so Brett stopped asking, "Can I help you?" So we sat there for 5 minutes and looked at each other, and we were like, well, shit, what do we do now? Well, that's when another one of our friends came in, and essentially what was supposed to be a side mission for my character turned into my character chasing a halfling thief, and I think what was he? A barbarian. I think he was a barbarian. No. He was a cleric. Take that back. Completely different. My character was chasing a cleric and a halfling thief around the city while they were getting drunk in a tavern. And that was the side story. It said we spent 3 hours with my character chasing them around, and my character got so frustrated that she finally just sat down and got drunk too.
Lol.
It was pretty
Getting
funny.
drunk is always a good turning point for a character.
Yeah, very much so.
I'll never forget when Ryan became the master of magic after getting drunk.
Drunken master, you might say.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is that every time, it was sort of a running gag that every time they would go to a tavern, because he was so young, this is harkening back to the Fantasy Craft game, but he was so young, he was like a 15, 16-year-old character, so he was so young and grew up on, freaking desert water, so, like, any drink would be enough to just, like, put him down, and, like, every time he would have more than one drink, he would start proclaiming himself to be the master of all magic.
Yes.
That's great.
It was hilarious, because it's that led him into a whole bunch of hilarious situations. It almost got him killed once, actually.
What time was that?
Ryan?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. You disappeared there for a second. I thought you were died or something.
I did, but it's okay.
Okay. We've resurrected you!
Alright.
No,
Amethyst dragon.
It only costs us 5 more versions.
Nah, he's a copper dragon, alright? He's not really amethyst. But,
Okay, copper dragon.
so Lothane, one time he got so drunk that he ended up getting picked up on by one of the most prominent assassins in the game. And so she convinced him to go outside and have a talk with her, and then proceeded to wrap a garrote around his neck.
Right. Because she was dating my brother.
Yes.
And I was pretty pissed off about that.
Yes.
And this was some type of flirting / getting to know you family thing? Weird ass. She was so weird.
Ryan, were we married at that point yet?
Yeah, I think we were. No! Wait, yeah.
Were we? Or was
you had this was either when you got married or like the night before as like Lothane's
yeah, I think it was the bachelor party.
Oh god. Cheeky bitch to do that on the night before my wedding.
Yeah, well, that's how rogues are. You know.
Well,
what about you, Erin? Do you have any good stories?
Actually, can I tell one more?
Go ahead. I'm all
taking my
ears.
spotlight here.
Sorry. No, this one is actually kind of really funny. This goes back to the online role playing, and I did remember the name of the other website. It's called Fort Ruggler, and so my friend and I, our characters started dating on the website, and at one point we decided to do a post where they were getting a little more familiar with each other. They got so familiar the moderators had to step in.
Oh, really?
Oh.
There was.
It wasn't that bad, I swear to God.
You're not the only one, Erin. There was at one point. At one point we had done a forum-based roleplay back in high school.
Yeah.
And
do not speak of Gaia.
and at one point, 2 of our friends who shall remain nameless to protect their own dignity.
They have
I'm
dignity?
gonna assume Shane and Ryan, or Sean and Ryan.
Nope, Ryan is completely
The 2 individuals mentioned have dignity?
One of them does, yes. One of them does, and she just got a new boyfriend who she's trying to impress.
Okay. We will. I don't know. He heard some stuff. I don't know.
He did hear some horror stories, but this one's real bad.
God.
But it basically ended up as an April Fool's joke. They decided that they were going to literally roleplay gratuitous tentacle rape in the forum.
Oh my God.
Like not even as like a PM and posting it later. They actively were typing it out on the computer at school.
Oh my God. Okay, ours wasn't testicle rape, I swear. But it was enough that the moderator stepped in and were like, yeah, you gotta take this off the board. So they deleted our post. And so we just continued in private messages. I think we stayed up until 6 a.m. that night just writing back and forth to each other. And I was like, this is ridiculous, but I love it.
That's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Alright, Erin, what you got for us?
I'm trying to think of like bizarre stories I could tell, because I've already told a few good ones, but I think one that our group continues to go back to pretty often. So this is back when I was playing with my buddy Chad, Ben, and Alex. I think it might have even been a 4th person, I don't remember for sure. The campaign idea was one of my first ones, and I told everyone at the very beginning, if you die, I am letting you come back as a ghost to then try to resurrect you, and you could be like a ghost person with the rest of the group, so you don't have to change characters all the time. And everyone's like, that's a cool idea. So, and I thought we were going to actually use that. We never did, but we did have someone die really early on. I was hoping he never did. I was pissed off. But anyway, in the campaign, they acquired a legendary weapon, which some of you might be familiar with from what I'm referencing, but it was a gun-based item that shot shurikens and lightning. And basically, what they did is they gave it to the bard for whatever reason. I think he just decided to take it. And the next big encounter they had shortly afterward was to fight a medium-sized dragon. I believe that's not a huge one, but relatively decently sized. And I don't know what possessed him to do it. You have a ranged weapon that shoots shurikens and lightning. he decides to go up into melee range to hit it with him, and he dies instantly.
Oh, kiddo.
To this day, we all still give him crap about that one.
See, that's a good one, Erin, because I think that's a great one because I've in my games I think this is probably one of my faults as a GM, but I tend to run games that are a little bit I wouldn't say easy on the players, but I'm not out and out trying to kill them at every turn. So
Thank you.
So like I've never actually had a PC die through anything aside from the fact that they wanted to change their character. Like,
no.
Who died?
Doctor Who, you killed me.
When did I kill you?
You killed Terena!
No.
I loved her!
She died because it
Uh-huh.
was the end of the campaign and we both
Uh-huh.
thought it would be an interesting storyline.
Mm-hmm.
But B, she didn't die like in like a random combat against a dragon.
You
Like,
still killed me, and it was not one of those that you stated.
I don't know. I think that one counts because the two of us agreed it would be a more interesting story if she died at the end of the season.
I never agreed that it would be better if she died.
Yes, you did.
No, I
Don't even.
didn't.
All right, fine. Assuming that Nicole did not agree,
Which
then I
did
have
not.
one PC death on my hand.
Yes.
One.
Man, I still laugh every time because I was like, why would you ever make such a poor decision when you are not equipped for melee combat at all?
Hey,
The
you
only
want?
thing I can think of, besides that for silly moments, was a more recent one I did was back in when I was at the university, and I had it running. I guess you could call it a gag, but it was more of just I had this group of NPCs where the heroes could get their missions from and whatnot to kind of go out and do things. That way, there'd be like a central place to go to, and if there was any trouble they were having, I could send one of these good NPCs in to help them. God forbid they, finds anything they can't handle. One NPC I constantly sent with them because all the other NPCs were too good for them to go with them was this drunk-ass wizard who had no idea where he was half the time, and literally they got into a fight where they were up against another dragon, a different dragon. I think it was like a zombie dragon. And they were like in a situation where they could not win. So I'm like, okay, I need to think of something to do so they can survive because I want the story to keep going. Because they wanted to keep the story going.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going to send the wizard in, but I'm not going to have him actually fight. He's just going to throw them magic potions that they can throw the dragon to kill it faster.
What?
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh
I came up
my
with ridiculous
God.
bullshit to keep the overpowered NPCs from actually getting in there. I made them overpowered because I knew, and it was ended up being true once, but I knew they would eventually try to attack the NPCs to get loot or whatever. So I'm like, nope, fuck you guys. These guys are going to be too powerful for you to hit this early in the game.
Oh, that's great. Have we ever had an NPC that you guys like turned on and killed just solely for loot?
No.
I don't think so.
I play with a lot
I
of
came
allies,
close.
so it's pretty expected in my turf.
I
Maybe.
don't think we had that problem at all.
I came close in Dungeon World.
Who are you gonna?
I was...
Oh yeah, that's
Well-
right. You were playing a crazy person though.
Yes. I mean, in that campaign, I was ready to kill the party just for their
That's
loot.
true. I've never. Now here, I'll tell you what. I've never killed a player, but Nicole's come close to TPKing an entire group of
Oh,
players.
I was so close! So close!
She came within like a couple of dice rolls of TPKing the entire party.
It would have felt so good.
Why don't you tell the Erins that story?
Okay, yeah, because that's a good story, and I was thinking about telling that one. So, we were playing Dungeon World, and we had started this campaign after we saw the anime Sword Art Online. Where, if you don't know, it's about this MMO where the creator comes in and he's like, "Gotcha, guys, you're stuck in here till you beat the game. Okay, thanks, bye." So, they're trying to figure out how to beat the game, get through all the dungeons, beat the bosses. So we're like, this is a pretty cool concept. Let's do this, but we can do this better, right, guys?
Yeah, guys, of course.
Of course. It totally won't end up horrible or whatever.
Oh my god. To be fair, I still consider that to be our greatest game. It's just kind of sad that it was where we all played the worst possible people.
So my character was that typical PvPer, and
That PvPer. Yeah.
I was that PvPer. Like, before I got with the rest of the party, I was like one of the founding members of the biggest PvP guild.
Dem Sparrows.
Yes. Who were meant to be a one-off.
Yep.
They were not meant to be the main villain.
You made them the main villain.
No, Danny made them the main villain, but that we'll get into another time. So, my character, it came to a point where I had made decisions where I was like, you know what? She has a mental disorder. You know what? She's a sociopath. So I had done the research on being a sociopath for like 2 weeks. Because this is how I do it. I make a decision and I research every little bit. Like in our main campaign, I have a familiar who's a weasel. I did research to what breed he was.
Yep, I love
I
you,
can see it.
Nicole.
I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Show me the facts.
I speak only
Just
the facts. So yeah, there came a moment in game where I decided, yep, she's going full sociopath because all this time in this game she's been off her medication.
Oh God.
So it had come to a point where it was during this festival in like our town of beginnings, and my old PvP group, the Sparrows, came and started killing players. So we went, I don't know what we were doing, Ryan. Were we trying to save them, or were we just going to investigate?
When the Sparrows attacked the big gathering?
Yeah.
We were primarily trying to drive them off and save people, but yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they were doing that. Because my title was, I was the queen. So, of course, I had a big head about it. I am the queen of the sparrows, and the leader of these new sparrows was calling herself the queen. So, of course, I was like, we're not doing that. So, in full anime fashion, from my inventory, I equipped the cloak that the sparrows would always wear.
Which she had never bust out, ever, up to this point. And it was real bad because a lot of the party was already convinced that she was a sparrow just screwing with us. So her busting out this cloak was real bad.
No, because I told you guys I was a sparrow, but I never told you I was queen of the sparrows. That was great.
Right.
That was great. I was like, you guys never asked my rank.
At least 2 of our party was ready to kill her right then.
Yeah, so...
Oh, yeah!
So, I pull out my rapier. I had the Assassin's Creed dagger that just pops out of your arm. And I was going rapier dagger style on these sparrows, running in to kill them. And from then on, I just made her crazier and crazier, where it came to a point where Angel, his character was like I was like his best friend, but he didn't know I was a sociopath. So, it had come to a point where I kept pushing and pushing him, where he finally came to the decision to knock me out and have an NPC do brain surgery on me to fix my being a sociopath.
God.
I had this whole plan laid out where, like, yeah, the final step is I'm just gonna murder everybody in our keep.
It was such a great game, honestly. I mean, Nicole was a sociopath. Angel, who was playing that guy that she brutally betrayed. What do you want to call him?
Well, Angel's character,
He
I'll
was the
speak for him,
hacker.
he was a lonely computer geek. He ended up being able to hack the game to give himself, like, infinite loot and shit. And then Nicole's character completely took advantage of him and made him believe she was his actual friend.
So he was just cold. He didn't trust anybody at the end. Sean, who played my younger brother, ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder. I was just a pure psychopath.
Yes, you were.
Which was really, really sad because I wasn't trying to be a horrible person, but I just got too into the game.
Now, do you want to tell
Real
that
bad.
story so they know your end? Because
Oh,
I've told
man.
Bluebella's end.
Do we want to save that for another episode?
Oh, no. There is an episode down the pipeline. It's going to be called Our Greatest Failure. And that is what we will tell the story of the orphans.
No. We're not talking about
Gavin.
the orphans right
No. We can talk about Gavin right now.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, we already have an episode devoted to Ryan's biggest failure ever.
Yes.
So
Fuck you. That was a group failure. I strongly hold that it was not entirely my fault.
Alright, so regale the tale of Gavin.
So, in this story, Gavin was definitely he was a fantasy geek. He loved playing games, reading books. And he was super duper introverted. So the reason that he came to be in the group was because he knew so much of the lore around the game. And he knew a bunch about the game just in general. So Angel and Nicole's characters decided to bring him in. They started calling him Wiki because he knew so much about the game.
Angel wanted to bring you in. I thought you were a useless piece of shit.
Okay, true. So that was that. And I was one of those true RPers in the game where I wouldn't want to be called by my real name, Gavin. I would want to go by my character name, which was Gileath. Gileath Glitzfire. It's really good. Who was a mage of the Iron Tower, one of the last of his kind. And it was really good. But the stress of the game kind of cracked him, so he really got into the game. He really started RPing. And his younger brother, who joined in order to spend some time with him and got caught in the game as well, went through so much bullshit to the point where he was actually tortured at one point. In Gileath, wow, I almost called him Gileath. Okay,
wow.
In Gavin's mind, his first priority was to beat the game so that he could get his brother out, because his brother had this life out there in the real world, and he wanted to get him back to it because it was a life that he loved. And so he went full-on RP, and he loved the game so much that at the end of the game, he was offered the chance to stay and become a part of the game. And it was only then that that he realized what his brother had been saying from day one, that his brother came into the game so that he could spend time with him. So when Gavin chose to stay in the game, it pretty much broke his younger brother's heart, because he chose the game over his brother, and it was really sad.
And to this day... Oh, finish.
Well, the worst part of it is that I, as a person, like a real person, Ryan, did not catch this. Did not catch what was happening until the last session. So it was so real for me, I actually got depressed for a few weeks after.
I've never ended a game, Erin. When this game ended, when I put the book down and I closed the game, the entire table looked at each other and just sat in silence for like a good, literally like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Of just silent, like, reflection and like, what the hell did we just do?
Oh my god.
It was an epic story. It was one of the best I've ever told. I think it's our best game, honestly.
So to this day, we always have this discussion. It's almost like clockwork. Almost every week we have this discussion of, in that game, who was a worse person? Ryan, for being essentially a psychopath and breaking his brother's heart and crushing him and staying in this game. Or me, the sociopath, who at the end sided with her old guild and was like, yeah, I'm gonna help you kill these guys, and actively tried to kill the party.
Oh my god.
It's obviously Nicole as the worst person.
No. We always agree it's you.
It's obviously Nicole who decided to go out of her way to intentionally kill people for lols.
All right.
Hey, Ryan,
Shut up, the
I
both of
completely
you.
agree with you, but I feel like she'd kill me, so I have to agree with her.
Agreed.
All right. the both of you shut up.
Mhm.
But I'd like both the Erins weigh in on this for me. What do you guys, having heard both sides of the story, who do you actually think is worse? In all seriousness.
Ryan.
Wow.
Aaron, we're no longer friends.
I'll
Reasoning?
defend you on everything except for that.
What's
Oh,
your,
wait till you hear the orphan story.
What's your reasoning besides for picking Ryan?
Huh?
What's your reasoning for picking Ryan?
Yeah, why is Ryan's character worse than the sociopath that decided to kill people for fun?
Because who doesn't enjoy killing people for fun? Let's be realistic here.
Alright, Erin, just because it gives you a boner doesn't mean...
Ryan does make a valid point. That was pretty bad that you wanted to kill off the entire party.
I did.
But she didn't. She didn't.
Because the dice
That's
wouldn't
because
let
we
me.
stopped her, Aaron. Us
Yeah.
succeeding
If-
doesn't make her a better person.
Look, Aaron, if the dice had let me, I would have killed them so bad.
She tried to.
I actively tried. The dice would not let me. I rolled like shit.
Okay, you're the worst person. then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Other Aaron?
I'm gonna vote Ryan as the worst one.
Why?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Nicole will kill me if I don't pick you. Second, I also agree with the idea of killing people for fun. I think it's fun. I don't know why anyone else thinks it's fun. I gotta go with that one. Doesn't make her worse. It just makes her human. That's all it is.
God, that's so stupid.
See, for me, I'll put in my 2 cents as the GM.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ryan is the worst person in that game.
Oh my god.
And hear me out though, but the honest to goodness rational reason I think that Gavin was a worse person than Sasha.
You mean Blue Bella?
Or right, Blue Bella, sorry. Blue Bella, yes, she was crazy and she tried to kill the entire party. But at the end of the day, when all was said and done, she chose her brother over everything else. Gavin, on the other hand, chose virtual reality over family.
Yeah.
Okay, I also want you to keep in mind a person's intentions, though. Because it was Blue Bella's sheer intention to murder people.
Right,
Because
no,
you
I,
got in my brother's way.
Whereas Gavin losing his brother was entirely from Gavin's standpoint, he didn't realize it was happening until it was too late.
right,
It's
but
not
at the
that
very
he saw it and was just like, fuck it.
but at
He-
the very
he
end
didn't,
of the
by
game,
time
and you can't.
He was given that choice. He was so far gone. He couldn't choose to go with him from his standpoint. He had received the thing he had wanted most ever, of all time, and he managed to save his brother. And then his brother was asking him to leave behind the thing that he wanted most, and he couldn't.
Yeah, which makes him the worst person.
Oh my god. I can't convince him, guys. I hope there are some rational
because
people
Ryan-
listening to this podcast.
Ryan,
that will
at the
see
end
what's
of the
going on.
day, the sociopath cared more about her brother than you.
No, I cared about my brother as well. I did.
No. Gavin cared. I think the thing is, here's my perspective on it. As a non-biased third party, Gavin cared deeply about his brother. However, when the choice had to be made, when the choice was put in front of Gavin, he chose. It doesn't matter how far gone Gavin was down the rabbit hole. At the end of the day, when Joshua gave him the choice, he chose the game. As opposed to Blue Bella, where when her brother came and gave her the choice of saying, hey, join me and help me kill these motherfuckers, she said, you know what? These guys are my friends, but you're my blood, and I'm gonna help you.
She was halfway to killing us before the choice got made. That wasn't a hard decision.
You want to know
for
the
Blue
best
Bella.
thing? He wasn't my real brother. He was
That's
my
true.
adopted brother.
I don't care.
I still cared more about him than you did your actual brother.
No, screw you. All right, now in the middle of this game, Blue Bella's brother Gavin a choice to side with him and, like, pretty much kill the guy who was our biggest hope for getting people out of the game.
You should've.
Everybody thought that I would choose staying in the game over saving my brother, which they were entirely wrong. Gavin's whole thing was always, I have to get my brother out of this game. So once he succeeded and got that, and the game offered him a chance to stay, it's like he was receiving the best of both worlds. And then his brother asked him to give up the thing he wanted most. Honestly, if he had chosen to go with his brother, he would have killed himself within like a month. Because he wouldn't have been able to hack it. Honestly.
You know who else killed himself? Ollie.
Yeah.
Yep.
You two could have stayed in the game and been happy, but no.
Because I didn't want to leave my brother stranded in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. See this is I love this. This just makes me giggle.
And this is why I say this is our best game, because we can still have this argument like years later. We can have, I see us having the same argument when we're like 50.
Yep.
25 more years.
Well, what I'll do is I'll set up a straw poll in the comments, and we'll let people vote and see what they think. Does anybody else have any good stories they want to share before we wrap up?
I mean,
Covered most of them.
there's a hilarious story how I saved the world with social media. So, we did a superheroes campaign. And
Marvel Heroes!
yeah, we did Marvel. And my character was she did parkour, so...
That was her superpower.
No. My superpower...
I know.
That was part of it. Her superpower was, like, super reflexes, so she did parkour. So...
Spider-Man. Okay.
So she decided to film it and became a YouTube star.
She's literally Spider-Man.
She was a YouTube star, so as part of the character building, you could pick skills in which, what was it? It was like technology, driving, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I went to Shane, I was like, babe, can I have social media?
As a skill. She wanted social media as a skill.
Because there's regular media here. I specifically want social media. And the look he gave me...
So I'm sitting there from my perspective. I'm planning out this campaign. The idea was they were all going to be. I was doing sort of a take on like Young Justice, where these guys, they're all teenagers. They're in a high school. They've all got powers, and so Shield comes to them, and he's like, and Nick Fury is like, hey, I'm going to train you guys. You guys are going to be my squad, my fucking hit squad. To do, to do like off the book superheroing, and eventually become like part of the Avengers. So Nicole comes to me and she's like, yeah, so I see that you can specialize in like video, film, media, and be like that J. Jonah Jameson type character, but I want to do social media. And I'm like, how in the hell do you just like, what the hell does the social media skill do? And so it came to the point in the game where she started trying to recruit other heroes through Twitter.
Who are we fighting? Where I picked my phone up and I tweeted out every superhero that I knew and took some from Tony Stark's database, tweeted them, and got a whole bunch of superheroes to help us defeat this villain on top of the Sears Tower.
Yep, white alert.
Oh, it was, I think it was Dormammu?
Yeah, Dormammu.
Dormammu!
Yeah, Dormammu showed up, and she decided to go through Twitter and contact all the superheroes.
Because I not only had I was BFFs with Tony Stark. We had the bracelets and everything. So I had access to his database, and who he rejected. So I took them, along with the people that I knew on Twitter, and did this massive tweet. Like, oi, Dormammu's here on top of the Sears Tower, we need help. Okay, thanks.
And lo and behold, so the way the system worked was that you would roll that you had a pool of dice, and you would choose what they call the effect die, and the size of your effect die determined like how well you did your task. And I believe she had gotten like a D12 effect die, which was the highest die in the game. So as the GM, I'm sitting there going, so does Spider-Man have Twitter? Is this a thing? Is this a thing that I have to deal with in my universe now, that Peter Parker is on Twitter?
And I can tweet him?
And Nicole can tweet Peter Parker?
So that is when I saved the world with social media.
That's hilarious.
The best part was, I think everybody was laughing at that skill that I had taken. Because, like, we were going through, like, oh, what did you take? Yeah, I took social media.
It's a powerful thing.
Yep, and I saved the world.
She did indeed save the world with social media.
It was
Suck it, haters.
actually ridiculous.
Well, I mean, social media saved the Deadpool movie, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that was the one guy I didn't put in my Marvel campaign. Suck it, Deadpool fans.
Whoa.
Oh, them's fighting words.
Ooh, flame.
Yep, flame. I'm throwing flame. Throwing it out there. Hell, I started bringing in guys from DC just so I could have more heroes and not include Deadpool.
Damn.
Wow. Roasted.
Ouch.
Roasted.
Yeah. There's that hilarious tale where I threw Shane for a loop a little bit.
Yeah, I as a GM, I can thoroughly admit I was thrown for a goddamn loop.
Because you had no idea how I was going to use that. Or if that would ever get higher up.
Well, yeah, that was the thing, is because, like, you came with the idea, and I'm sat there going, like, I already thought the media skill was stupid. Like, what,
Yeah,
like, the media skill in general, like, being able to, like, I mean, I guess it would make sense in certain games to be able to manipulate, like, the news and, like, you know, that sort of thing to, like, to your advantage. But then to, like, take it and use it in that way for Twitter and to, I believe you had, like, Tony Stark's personal Skype contact at one point. So,
we were BFFs. We had the bracelets.
So whenever the group needed money, she would literally just Skype call Tony Stark and ask for money.
It got to a point where we had separated from S.H.I.E.L.D. and became our own superhero team, and I was partially funding it with YouTube money.
Yeah. Yeah, it came a point, one of the villains of the game was a person that she started a beef with on YouTube.
Yeah. I started a Twitter beef, and it came out in real life.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was freaking great. But I think the tavern's gonna close down soon. So, any last thoughts about RPing? Any last thoughts about the hobby in general? Like what you really like about it, what you actually hate about it. You know, we've talked a lot about the good about the hobby. Is there anything about it that you guys just don't like?
I hate players that don't attempt to be creative. Like, I get there's a limitation to what some can do, but some of them just don't even try. It gets kind of frustrating.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. That is definitely a thing.
I sometimes feel like, for someone who's often quiet, that it can be really intimidating to be a player when everybody else seems to know, like, what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it can be a good thing because it can make that person come out more, but it can also be extremely intimidating when everybody's staring at you, waiting for you to say something, and you're just like, I am going into my shutting off stage. So it can be a little difficult for introverts sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes the thing that gets me sometimes is I when characters when people narrate what their characters do in third person. So
Yeah.
well, so like instead of like Ryan, for instance, he tends to say, "Well, I want to do X, Y, or Z," or can I do X, Y, or Z, or and then a lot of times in games that I've played with newer players or players who they're not really playing to absorb the story, they're just playing to fight some baddies or whatever. And I'm not saying that's a bad part of I'm not trying to harp on that part of the hobby too much of people who just want to kick the door down and kill some orcs. those are just not my style of games. But like when somebody's like, yeah, Alexander's gonna like, you know, slice his sword at the orc, and okay, thanks, you know.
Actually, I want to add something to it. Rule Nazis. They are the worst ones to play with because they will constantly...
yeah.
Rules
Rule
lawyers,
Nazis,
yeah,
yeah.
rules
Yeah,
lawyers
rules
are the
lawyers.
worst.
They will bring up the rules at the most inopportune times and spend 10 minutes debating them. It's like, I just want to get through the fight so we can get on to the next thing.
Can we just go through the fight, please? Please.
But what I find funny about rules lawyers is it's always in combat that the rules lawyers come out.
Yeah.
Like it's never I've never had a rules lawyer come out while I'm like selling the party some new sword. Like I've never had a rules lawyer come to me and be like, actually, you know, the in the PHB on page 200 it says that a longsword is actually 23 gold pieces and not 14 gold pieces. Thank you. You know?
It's a good voice for it.
Yeah, that's my grognard voice. So.
Alright, what, the thing that aggravates me, it aggravates me when people try to intentionally derail the story just for the fuck of it. Like, I completely understand it when people like Sean or Erin, like, they'll do something unexpected, which they do want to, like, kind of keep the GM on their toes, but they also make sure that it's within character, and it's always to enhance the story, but there are some people who will do out-of-character shit just to fuck with things. Like, I once tried to GM a game, and the guy who was playing a barbarian with 8 intelligence wanted to purchase a bar so that he could start an assassin's guild.
Okay.
A, it was my first game ever, so I didn't know what the fuck to do with that. And B, I'm just like, dude, serious. like your character has no reason for doing this. Why? Why would you do this? Like, so the people that just intentionally try to throw the game off track, that's what aggravates me.
Yeah. What bothers me too is when the DM, whatever, when we go to play a session and the session just goes nowhere. Not necessarily because of the players, but because I don't know if the DM just didn't have ideas for that night or what. Because I remember one session, we spent 4 hours. All we did was wander through a cave that fucked with our heads. Like, we didn't progress in the story at all. Granted, a lot of the cave experiences were hilarious, but we didn't get anywhere. And it was like, well, what was the point of those 4 hours? We didn't do anything.
Erin, I love you. Erin's so much like me in terms of role playing.
Yeah, I gotta get the two
Erin
of you.
wants to know the story. Like,
I gotta get the
happened
two of you guys in a
next?
game together, and we'll call it the Rails. And we'll get you guys. I'm gonna get you guys like on like in a setting where we make a train or something, and just put you guys on a plot railroad and just say go.
We want to know the meta plot, man. We want to
No,
know
put them on an actual train.
Ryan, there's gonna come a point where you and Erin are gonna get to fight somebody on top of a moving train. I promise you.
I'm so down for this. I'm so down.
Yeah.
What I don't expect is a train. It's actually after a train. He transforms into a robot and destroys you all.
Whoa.
Just make sure I don't play a moody character. I'm not good at moody characters.
Nobody likes moody characters, though. That's another thing that pisses me off about certain role players, and this one's gonna kind of get a little vitriolic, so I apologize for it. But people who play that guy,
Oh.
you know what I mean, like that moody. I'm gonna sit. You know, you guys are all having fun over here in the tavern, but I'm gonna sit in the corner and be stoic because I'm moody, and I'm gonna sit in the corner and not interact with the rest of the party or any NPCs or anything. I'm just gonna sit there and brood because my character is just so deep.
Okay. Now, to be fair, while I said I played a moody character with Deciona, I portrayed her as moody because I figured that meant I wouldn't have to talk as much because I was that nervous playing as a character for the first time at the D&D game. But
Right,
she did interact with people the more I got familiar with them.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, it's okay to start out that way, and like, if you want to play that way, that's fine. But like, at some point, you have to like, what the fuck are you doing? This is not like a solo game. It's a group dynamic, a group experience.
Yeah.
Or I've had players. I've had that guy in a game before, and like NPCs would approach him, and he still wouldn't even dignify the NPCs.
Oh, geez.
Like, I would try to, like, he'd be sitting at a bar, and I would be like, okay, well, you're sitting there, and the bar, the waitress comes up to you, and she tries to strike up a conversation with you, and he's just like, ugh.
Now I'm gonna admit that I have been that guy before, but it wasn't intentionally to try and, like, snub people. I tried to start a character that was super tragic, and like so that they could have that nice build up cathartic moment where like they actually got to be with other people. But as a role player, it's hard. Like, you're starting yourself out in a ditch at that point because you have to work to get to there, and your party has to do more work to try and pull you out of your shell. And at that point, it's
but at that point, like,
undue burden for everybody. So I mean, it's possible, but you're starting yourself behind the 8 ball at that point.
But it's not even that, because I'm sorry, go ahead, Erin.
And then people get frustrated at you because they think you're intentionally doing that, when it's like, no, I'm not like intentionally being like a bitch. That's not how I am. It's just that's how I'm playing my character, because I'm trying to get used to everything too, and I want to come out of my shell with my character.
Yeah, you want to try and be true to the character, but simultaneously, it's just a lot of work when you start out that way. So, I mean, I've fallen into that trap before.
Right, but like from a group perspective, like I always found it hilarious when groups would have that guy, and then like it's just hilarious to me because like it's like, why would you work with that guy?
Yeah.
Like, you have to go, that guy has to then either A, like you as a GM have to go out of your way to make the party like really, really need that guy, or something like that, because otherwise, like, why, if the 5 of us are an adventuring party, why are we gonna have that guy,
Right. I think at least with my group, they were patient with me because they knew I was new with
Well,
them.
yeah, if you tell the group like, hey, I'm new, and it's gonna take me a little bit of time before I can, get there, I think that's fine, and you can work with that. But to do that, like, let's say you're doing a long-term game and you're doing that like 20 sessions into the game.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, that's why when I did the second session my sophomore year, I completely decided to come out of my shell, and I had a character who was actually really talkative, but also kind of cocky, and so she talked a lot.
Yeah.
And that was new for me, but it was a lot of fun. One more just real quick funny story with that is my character was a different species, and it was for a different type of gaming system. And I said at one point, I flick my ears forward, and the person next to me looks at me and she goes, "You have ears?" I'm like, "Yeah, we kind of all do." And she's like, "No, I didn't mean it like that." Because I have like real tall, like cat ears or something. But yeah, no, it was cool coming out as a more personable character. Deciona was a good starting character, so I could listen more than play, basically. But yeah, they got me to warm up, and I opened up.
But you have more fun as a more engaged player, I would assume.
Definitely. Yeah, and at least Deciona knew how to work with others when we were fighting bad guys.
What about you, babe? Anything you haven't really broached anything on this particular topic?
As far as the like moments that I've hated as far as role playing, I think back to when I did the forum thing for a little while, and like my character had shipped herself with somebody. Like, I was dating this guy, and in a couple of like campaigns we had shipped our characters together. So like one campaign I shipped myself with somebody else, and him IRL got super pissed.
Oh, wow.
That'll happen.
Yeah, that happened, and yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about awkward? Imagine being a DM for the game where your girlfriend and your best friend are married in the game. So,
Yeah.
Hey, that was awkward for me too, bruh.
Look,
but
that
it was
awkward.
funny.
I didn't
That was-
want to do that, bruh.
That was awkward for everybody, but we worked with it
It was super awkward.
a little bit.
It was hilarious.
I don't know. For me, at first
I
it
had
was.
just broken up with my girlfriend too, man.
Oh no! For me, at first it was awkward. Then I'm like, okay, this is happening. I'm going with it. This is life now.
Yeah.
I was just like, alright, fuck it. I will work around this.
Yeah.
Oh god. I just wanted to be a mage with the sword. Why is this
Nope.
happening to me?
Because the elf decided to drug me.
Yeah, that happened.
What?
So,
Context, please.
yes, so this was in Fantasy Craft, and my character Zelda had the hots for this bard who she'd known since they were young, but didn't have the guts to, like, say anything to him.
And
Yeah.
PC'd by her real boyfriend, by the way.
Yes.
Yes, as the GM, Wesker was my character. Yes, he was my
Yes.
NPC.
Sook!
I'll get her.
The cat's doing something.
I'll get her. Tell the story.
So Danny, who was playing our resident spring elf, she was the hippie. She was all about love and all of that. So she sees this. She sees this after we're at this party, and she sees Wesker, and she's like, oh my god, I want to tap that. Goes to Zelda and is like, hey Zelda, are you okay with me tapping that?
These are facts. This did happen.
And Zelda was like, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't care. Why would I care? So she goes off, does the thing.
She does proceed to tap that, by the way, which makes the story that much better.
She taps that. And then realizes that, oh shit, Zelda likes this guy. So then, after we have a mission, we're chilling with, like, this Explorers Guild in their base, which is a cave, because they're mostly dwarves. So she has the bright idea. We have this downtime. I'm going to take this aphrodisiac and try and drug both of them. So then that way I can just push them into a room and they get this over with. And then maybe love will bloom. So both characters have to make a perception roll. I rolled a 2. I did not see the drugs.
She rolled a no.
I rolled a no. He saw the drugs. So I was that was fun. Acting like I had been drugged. So immediately I like go out to him and he's like, are you okay? You should probably get some water. I'm worried about you. So she's like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm gonna go inside and get some water. So I run into Lothane, who was Ryan's character.
That's me.
And he pulls me inside and he's like, what's wrong? So that's when the drugs really start to kick in. So I put my hand on his thigh and I'm like starting to make a move on him.
Lothane, by the way, is 16 years old.
Oh
And
god.
has spent about 8 of those years by himself in the desert.
Oh my god.
Yes.
He doesn't know what the fuck is happening at this point.
So yeah, that happens. He leaves. Wesker's out there. And, like, what did you say to him?
Well, Lothane decides that, if I recall the course of events properly, Lothane decided that Wesker, being Zelda's oldest and dearest friend, would know what was wrong with her. And also, Wesker was a touted ladies' man.
Yes. he
Yeah,
was.
and Wesker's my boy. He's gonna tell me what's going on. He's gonna
Yeah.
help me out. Like,
So-
what the fuck do?
So it proceeds to happen that Lothane goes up to Wesker and is like, hey, Zelda's sort of making a move. And at which point Wesker decides, you know what, yeah, this is a good thing. So he gives 16-year-old Lothane the advice that he should just roll with it and enjoy it.
Oh god.
Because from Wesker's perspective, he had liked Zelda, but had been under the assumption that he had been friend-zoned. So he moved on.
He liked he had a crush on Zelda back when they were like 7, and had always assumed that since she didn't say anything, she friend zoned him. So he went on and became a very promiscuous bard.
Yes. So Lothane goes back, and then that's when things happen. Things happened.
The curtains moved. You don't really see anything, but things happened to the side.
Yep, the door closed, and you can assume what happens.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Moderator stepped in.
And then about a year later, they got married.
I don't even think it was a year.
It was a little while later, because you guys had done a lot of quests
It was
in between.
a little bit, but it wasn't no year.
It was, I mean, in-game, that whole campaign took like 3 years. So it probably, yeah.
It might have been a year.
With travel time
Yeah.
and with, like, you
oh,
guys...
yeah, that's true. With going, yeah, it might have been a year.
Yeah, it was, you guys literally were fucking hopping all over that fucking continent, so...
Yeah. So, yeah.
And fucking all over the continent, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yes, that's the story how I got drugged. And whenever Danny has the idea to ship me, I always turn to her and ask, just don't drug me. Do whatever you want, can I just not get drugged? Please and thank you.
I mean, I can't think of a better note to end on than aphrodisiacal enforced accidental rape.
It's not rape if he enjoyed it.
I think it still kind of is, but that's a topic for a different podcast.
Nah.
That is a topic for a more social justice level podcast. This is not what we're about. I'm not getting into that. But I'd like to thank you all for having beer with me in the tavern this evening, and this we'll be doing this again. We'll be doing this again real soon. The next episode though is going to be the Valentine's Day special. Valentine's Day being a week from today, so happy Valentine's Day early to Nicole and Erin. I assume one of the girls in your harem will be going out with you on Valentine's Day.
You know what? I don't know the answer to that.
All right, well, let me know in a week. Let me know how it goes.
Just take the whole harem.
Just take the whole harem out. Skip it.
I feel like that's a mistake.
It's a mistake, but it'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have a date with Rick Grimes, so y'all do what you want.
All right, man. That's
Yeah. Rick Grimes and her birds. That's all she needs.
Yep. All right. Well, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. God damn it. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody around, but make sure you come back next week. Come back to the tavern next week, because we're going to do an episode all about shipping at the table. And that I sort of suppose is a nice segue into that episode for next week, because we're going to be talking all about whether or not shipping at the table is A good idea, B, if we decide that it's a good idea, how to best go about doing it.
We've learned not drugging you.
Drugging you, not exactly the best way to do it, but we'll talk more about that next week. Again, I'd like to thank my panel for coming on, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Take it easy.